he said they really opened up a different and new and better line of communication between his wife. She asked him, she's like, do you really feel the way a lot of these people do? And he goes, yeah, I do. And so that's right in my heart. In book one, I included a woman whose husband was killed in the line of duty. And I think that was an important perspective for people to read about. And volume two, a woman whose son was killed, and he happened to be a coworker of mine, a friend that was killed. And I was tasked with conducting that investigation. And so having her story in there, too. So it's just kind of opened up the world and more than I ever thought would have happened. So I'm really happy. Volume one, and it goes kind of with the humanizing the badge. There are two stories in particular. One was Dewey Rio. He lost his wife to cancer. And that, for him to open up and let me tell that story, but it was the people behind the badge are human. They experience everything that everybody else does. Another one, Kelly Burke, his wife, very young. And I remember because I worked with her when all this was going on. She went into heart failure and ended up being a heart transplant recipient. Again, just it's not to, it's to humanize the badge. We experience everything. There are in volume one some I almost shot. I think every police officer has that story. There are a couple of those. And the war stories in the books are there for a purpose. It's to help explain what they were feeling emotionally or how it affected them, and that's the purpose of the war stories. Volume two, and you and I talked about this prior, it is the story you said hit you, is Scott Angelo. It's not a typical story, but it's it was a designed ambush that occurred outside of one of my old coworkers' house. He was actually getting ready to go work an FSU home football game, which we all had to work for years. And deputies responded, and the first deputy there, the suspect shot and killed him. And Scott didn't know that. He heard the gunshots. He put his family safe, he thought, in the house, and he went out. He found another deputy that had been shot and wounded. They ended up confronting the suspect. Scott did shoot and kill him, and the suspect had set fire to his own home, which is what the premise of the call was. Right. And unbeknownst to Scott was that his wife and his kids, because they had a big picture window, actually saw all of this unfold, and how that changed their whole family. They ended up having to move, and again, that's a far-reaching story that doesn't happen every day, but it also highlights what does happen, what does affect the family. So that's a story that really, that he opened his heart and really shared that story was phenomenal for me. And I think it's a great read for anybody. Yeah. And that's the one thing with the books, they don't have to be read in order. You can read volume 3 and not having read volume 1 or 2 because they're standalone. It's just these stories.